Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month.
Hi, it's Angela Warner. The Warner family is pretty serious about the fair. The food, the fun, the family time. But Warner Stallion has another fair tradition. Back when we used the fairgrounds as our warehouse, these weeks meant clearing out all of our appliances for a mega sale. And that tradition stuck. Right now, during Savings on a Stick, you'll save up to 50% off regular prices. And then we add a bonus for each one you buy for up to $1,200 instant savings. State Fair Savings on a Stick, only at Warner Stallion Appliance.
Owning a rental property sounds like a dream until you realize how much work goes into getting it ready. Determine a competitive rent price, market the property, schedule the showing, screen tenants, draft up the lease, set up rent collection, handle maintenance requests, maintain tenant communication. Whew, sound complicated? Renter's Warehouse is here to take the hard work off your rental to-do list. Qualified tenants? Check. Rent collection? Check. Maintenance coordination? You got it. Go to renterswarehouse.com for a free rental analysis to find out how much your home can rent for. Or call 952-444-6996 because from now on, the only thing you need on your to-do list is to call Renter's Warehouse.
This is Lyle Wagoner for the IRS with a word about accuracy. When you do your income tax return, check your math. Use the peel-off label and envelope from your tax package. Attach all W-2s and schedules. And don't forget to sign your return. Be accurate. Then things go right. No delays if you're waiting for a refund. A message from the IRS.
Back in 1982, we had to do our own math. We didn't have all these fancy computer programs that screwed up our math for us. They did that by themselves. Okay, 73 years ago today, September 6, 1951, we just listened to Dragnet. We're going to hear another crime drama with Inspector Thorne, starring Stotts Cotsworth in a moment from that Thursday. But here's a look at some of the news items from that date, 73 years ago today. Andrei Gromyko of Russia attacked the proposed peace treaty with Japan late today, as an aggressive military alliance with the U.S. The scowling Gromyko came to the Gold Plush Opera House podium in San Francisco and declared the American written treaty, quoting, is clearing the path for Japanese participation in an aggressive military bloc in the Far East. It was the caustic, critical attack that American delegates to the peace conference had expected since Russia had announced she would attend. The Miami Weather Bureau issued an 11 p.m. advisory on Atlantic Hurricane Easy, saying position of the hurricane was estimated to be about 550 miles east-northeast of San Juan, Puerto Rico. Highest winds at 135 miles an hour, categorizing the storm as dangerous. In Bristol, Tennessee, a 15-year-old mountain boy sang the Lord's praises at one moment of a tent revival and the next turned and stabbed to death a teasing young friend. Billy Joe Cox, 14, saying, I don't know whether the Lord will forgive me, Jasper Fritz. He admitted killing 14-year-old Billy Joe Cox. I'm too scared to pray. Young Fritz said he sank his knife deep into Billy Joe's abdomen during services Tuesday night because the younger boy had been spitting on him and on Jasper's little brother Elmer. Billy Joe also hit him with a hymn book. Hundreds of Chinese tank-supported troops made a lightning attack against an Allied force west of Yangcheng, 35 miles north of Seoul, Korea. An Allied tank and infantry force battled west to aid the attack troops. The task force came under a withering hail of Red Army, mortar, small arms, and machine gun fire. After several hours of fighting, the task force still some distance from the assaulted unit. Premier Mohammad Mossadegh got the backing of the Senate in Tehran for a new ultimatum to the British to resume all negotiations or face expulsion of their refinery technicians. The premier set a 2-week deadline for reopening of the twice-deadlocked talks, starting from the day Iran formally handed Britain a memorandum on the issue. A Senate committee approved yesterday a plan to tax gamblers, then trimmed its big revenue bill by an additional $224 million. The revenue measure is designed to raise an additional $5.9 billion annually, including a $600 million take from gamblers. The bill expected to raise $7.2 billion annually as the House passed it. Senate gave swift approval yesterday to a $5.8 billion expansion of American military bases at home and abroad, the largest construction program of its kind ever presented to Congress in peacetime. A gang of juvenile boys in Houston developed an extortion racket as cruel as it was ingenious to bilk an elderly woman of more than $2,000 over a year's time. The amazing story revealed when police said they had broken the unique racket of 11 children aged 9 to 16. She paid them between $2,000 and $3,000 to stop throwing stones at cats, which the boys caused to congregate around her home. The lady got from $1 to as high as $45 in a single day. The lads did, to let the animals alone. They further preyed on her sympathies by telling her they had an injured cat and asked for money to take it to a veterinarian. She gave them $10. It was surprising the number of injured cats the boys found. An Italian who lived for 4 years in the Madison County Jail in Anderson, Indiana, because he had no other home, will receive a nice funeral. Sheriff Joe L. Brogdon promised. The sheriff began soliciting merchants for funeral expenses shortly after Mike Bernetto, the Italian citizen, died at the age of 72. Succeeding sheriffs continued the custom of housing him because he couldn't work and had no relatives. And the First Methodist Church of Clarksburg, West Virginia, along with a new $62,000 addition, which included the minister's home, destroyed by fire Tuesday night, the church valued at $750,000. Andre Gromyko's plumbing in a mess. The plumbing, that is, of the $1,600,000 Hillsborough mansion rented by the Russian foreign minister and led delegation to the Japanese Peace Treaty Conference. It would have seemed funny to most Americans to think that the Reds had joyfully acquired what their propagandists would term a typical capitalistic home, only to find the plumbing no better than in many comrades' residences in Russia. But the Russians weren't happy at all. As a matter of fact, according to a reporter who masqueraded as a plumber's assistant, the Reds acted as if it were the 11th hour when the plumbers arrived, because they couldn't find a plumber who would work on Labor Day weekend, a typical Yankee trick. The Soviets were without plumbing for 60 hours. The plumbers checked pipes in all the rooms, but that occupied by Gromyko, his plumbing was okay, a Russian said. But the plumbers found his was no better than the rest. The fault lay in a main discharge pipe, which was plugged up. The reporter disclosed the Russians had turned the mansion into a typical Moscow apartment, 7 single beds in 1 bedroom on the 3rd floor. There was an orange peel on the floor, a half-eaten candy bar on the windowsill. London bobbies had no trouble locating a thief who believed in doing things in a big way. A London taxidermy firm wondrously reported the theft of 2 elephant tusks weighing more than 100 pounds apiece, valued at more than $500. Police found Peter Armour Talon, an employee of the firm, with the goods. He was placed on probation for a year. And a Korean War veteran who found it necessary on the battle lines to do his laundry at the nearest convenient place, usually a stream, didn't let civilization change his habits. A soldier on his way home to visit his family at Statesville, North Carolina, decided his uniform had become too dirty. He stopped at the Hickory, North Carolina Presbyterian Church and washed it out. John R. Hay, the church's pastor, returned to find a soldier's uniform hung in front of an electric lamp to dry. Nearby sat the soldier dressed in a choir robe and reading the Bible. Dr. Hay asked no charges be brought against the veteran. Those some of the day's news stories, as reported in the newspapers of Thursday, September 6, 1951. On your radio, Inspector Thorne, starring Stotts Cotsworth. That's next here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Hi, it's Angela Warner. The Warner family is pretty serious about the fair. The food, the fun, the family time. But Warner Stallion has another fair tradition. Back when we used the fairgrounds as our warehouse, these weeks meant clearing out all of our appliances for a mega sale. And that tradition stuck. Right now, during Savings on a Stick, you'll save up to 50% off regular prices. And then we add a bonus for each one you buy for up to $1,200 instant savings. State Fair Savings on a Stick, only at Warner Stallion Appliance.
Owning a rental property sounds like a dream until you realize how much work goes into getting it ready. Determine a competitive rent price, market the property, schedule the showing, screen tenants, draft up the lease, set up rent collection, handle maintenance requests, maintain tenant communication. Whew, sound complicated? Renter's Warehouse is here to take the hard work off your rental to-do list. Qualified tenants? Check. Rent collection? Check. Maintenance coordination? You got it. Go to renterswarehouse.com for a free rental analysis to find out how much your home can rent for. Or call 952-444-6996 because from now on, the only thing you need on your to-do list is to call Renter's Warehouse.
Mr. Lamb, need help packing those boxes?
Yeah, almost done, Katie.
That was some retirement party. You got big plans?
Yep. Now that we're 65, the wife and I get extra $1,000 exemptions. We may qualify for the credit for the elderly, and we may sell our house. See, there's a tax break on the sale of a home when you're 55 or older.
Guess it pays to be old.
Who's old? Use the order form in your tax package to get free IRS publication 554, Tax Benefits for Older Americans. Message from the IRS.
A lot of crime on Thursday night on NBC. It started off, of course, with the delightful One Man's Family, and then went to Father Knows Best. Of course, humorous shows to a degree. Then Mr. Keen Tracer of Lost Persons at 8:30, Dragnet at 9, Counter Spy at 9:30, Your Hit Parade at 10, and then at 10:30, this program entitled Inspector Thorne, starring Stotts Cotsworth. We'll hear this show as it was broadcast 73 years ago tonight, September 5th, 1951. I want to mention the shows on the other networks. CBS had the FBI in Peace and War, the Hallmark Playhouse, Death Squad, the Philip Morris Playhouse, and Robert Q. Lewis's Waxworks. Over on Mutual, you had Swing and Sway with Sammy Kaye, the Rod and Gun Club, an address by General Douglas MacArthur, the Reporter's Roundup, and ABC had on the radio on that night the Newsstand Theater, also Hollywood Star Playhouse, the original Amateur Hour, and Foreign Reporter, Operation Dixie. And that's what was on the radio on Thursday night. That was 73 years ago, September 6, 1951. Let's move to 10:30 on NBC, as we mentioned, for an episode of Inspector Thorne starring Stotts Cotsworth.
And now the National Broadcasting Company presents Inspector Thorne in the Nickels and Dimes Murder Case. Tonight, the National Broadcasting Company presents the exploits of the spectacular young Inspector Thorne of the Homicide Bureau, whose investigations rank with many of the most celebrated ones in the annals of crime fiction. An investigator smart enough to claim he is dumb, and modest enough to believe it. Tonight, Inspector Thorne turns to the Nickels and Dimes Murder Case. It is late one night as we see a tense and drawn young man waiting and watching in the shadows near the door to a private house. He stiffens as a taxi draws up and a beautiful woman steps out of the cab and into the house. The young man throws his cigarette to the pavement and moves after her, saying,
"There she is. Liza's home. I've seen her go into the house with my own eyes. No one can tell me she isn't home this time. I'll ring the bell. She'll have to talk to me. Claire or nobody else can tell me Liza's not home. I've seen her go in myself."
Oh, it's you, James Gray.
Let me in, Claire. I want to see Liza.
Liza isn't home.
That's a lie. I saw Liza go in the house just now.
Liza is not home,
Now, you
James.
listen to me, Claire. You're only Liza's aunt. You've got no right to stop me from seeing her.
Don't you understand? Your wife, Liza, doesn't want to see you. Your wife is through with you.
Get out of my way.
Stop it, James. You can't go in.
I'm going to see Liza.
What are you doing here, James?
Liza. I've got to see you, Liza. Got to talk to
He
you.
pushed his way in, Liza.
All right, Aunt Claire. Now, James...
Liza, I love you.
James.
If you knew how I missed you, there was something between us that nothing could end.
James, you and I are through.
No, Liza, I won't believe it.
You mean you won't?
No, you love me. I know you love me. We belong together.
It's over, James. Finished.
I won't have it that way. You're coming home with me.
Let go of my arm. Now leave or I'll call a policeman.
All right. I'll go. But no one else will ever have you, Liza. You're my wife. You belong to me.
And now it is the next night in the wife Liza's bedroom. As the door opens, Liza suddenly sits up in her bed.
Who's that?